this departure as Eliezer going to Chorban in the source of Avraham Avinu, the instance of Avraham Avinu, to find a suitable wife for Yitzchak. And Avraham tells him, "Zbiach ad Hashem b'bakei Hashemayim b'bakei ha'aretz, asher le'tzikach ish lebnei Hakna'ani." Don't take a wife, Avraham says to Eliezer, for my son. From the daughters of Canaan, asher le'echi Yosef b'kei by your listener. You'll answer them a lot of details. Go to my land of origin, where I come from, to Chorban. Perhaps the women won't want to go after me. Ulai, perhaps. So one tells them no. Under no circumstances shall you take a wife for my son, those daughters of Canaan, because they come from the children of Ham, and they are not a suitable shidduch, they're not a suitable match for my son Yitzchak. And if you will not find anybody of my family in Chorban who would want to wed my son Yitzchak, then you're absolved from the shvuah, you're free. And then we all know the story that Rivka came out, and amazingly, exactly as Eliezer has prayed, that's exactly what happened. He asked Hashem that he should point out the proper bride for Yitzchak. She's going to be the girl that when he's going to ask for a drink, she'll offer to draw water also for the camel. And that's exactly what she did. And he was so sure that Hashem helped him that before even asking her who is her father, her mother, which family she comes from, he already gave her very, very expensive and precious jewelry. And then he first asked her, who is your father and mother? And she then told him that she is from the family of Abraham. And then he kneeled and bowed to the Rabbeinu Shalom and thanked Hashem, Hashem Mechani B'derech Emes, that he has steered him in the right direction to find the bride for Yitzchak. And then Eliezer comes back, he comes to the family of Rivka, and he relates the story of his meeting Rivka over again. And the Torah very painstakingly again repeats the entire story over again, the way Eliezer related it. And Eliezer repeats what the Torah already told us before, that he told Avraham Avinu, perhaps the women won't want to follow me to come to the land of Eretz Yisrael to marry Yitzchak. And Avraham told him, then he do not take any other bride, then just let things run the way they are, and Hashem is going to provide. But I am sure that Hashem will give the proper bride. He will give the proper bride for you. So there is a difference between the first time that Eliezer said to Avraham Avinu, perhaps the women won't want to follow me. So Ulai is with Avav. The second time, when we have the repetition of the story, Ulai is without Avav. And Rashi mentions that we can read it, since it's without Avav, we can read it Eilai, to me. Eliezer had a daughter, and he very much would have wanted to become the Mechutton of Avraham Avinu, that his daughter should marry him. And Eliezer wasn't a plain person. He was a big Talmid Chacham, a big tzaddik, he was, as the Chazal say, that Eliezer was at command of his body, of himself. He will never fall prey to the Yetzer Hara, to the wicked inclination. He was always the tzaddik, always did the correct thing. He was the chacham, he was the learned man. He was the one that was the medium between, the intermediary between Avraham and the people of the land. Eliezer was the spokesman for Avraham Avinu, and Eliezer was the teacher who taught the teachings of Avraham Avinu to the people of Canaan, to the people of the land. He was a very learned man and a very pious man, and he thought, and perhaps justifiably so, that he is a fitting father-in-law for Yitzchak. Why not? But Avraham Avinu rejected Eliezer's daughter because she does not come from the blessed seed of the children of Shem, from which that is the family of Avraham Avinu. So therefore he rejected him. He tells him, "Ein Aron is that is the Dorach. You cannot, you don't match into my family because you are Aron. You have been cursed by Noach, because he's from the children of Ham. Shem has been blessed by Noach, and Avraham Avinu is from the children of Shem. And Ein Aron is that is the Dorach. One who is cursed does not match himself, it does not attach himself to one who is blessed." So these Fasamis point out that the first time that the word Ulai is written in the Torah, at the time that the story actually happened, it says Ulai with a vav, which means perhaps, and it means nothing else. The second time, when Eliezer repeats the story, then we have Ulai without a vav, and we can read it Eilai, which means to me. Perhaps the Yitzchak will come to me and take my daughter. Why is this not mentioned in the beginning, at the first account of the story, when it first happened? Why is it that when Eliezer repeated the story, he mentioned the fact that he would have wanted to take Yitzchak for son-in-law? Why is not written the first time without a vav? So the Sasana says that when a person has certain interests, they may be so concealed from him that he doesn't realize it himself. Eliezer had interest in not having Yitzchak take a wife from Chara. Eliezer wanted that Yitzchak should take his daughter for a wife. He was interested in that. But when a person is interested in something, he is blinded. He doesn't see the truth. He may do things may plan things and in a way direct things in the direction of his interest without even admitting, not to others, but not even admitting to himself that he is steered and motivated by his own selfish interest. So, at the first conversation, when Avraham told Eliezer, I want you to get a wife for my son from the land of Haran, where I originate from, Eliezer very much wanted that should not come to be. This wish of Avraham Avinu should not be realized. He rather would have wanted that his own daughter should marry Yitzchak. So he said, perhaps she won't want to follow me from Haran to the land of Canaan to marry your son. And underneath this statement, concealed even from Eliezer himself, there was a hidden wish that she really shouldn't want to follow. But Eliezer was blind to that, because when a person has interest, he doesn't see the truth. After Eliezer fulfilled his mission faithfully, and he subdued his own wishes, and he went to Haran, and even went so far as to beg Hashem, as to be mispalel, to pray that he should be successful in his mission, he should find a proper wife for Yitzchak in Haran. And after he saw that Hashem helped him, and he did find a proper wife, then he was already relieved from his interest. He knew that this is how it's going to be. Then he first realized that he always had selfish interest. Then he was able to say, Eli, I wanted her for myself. Because now already, she definitely will marry Yitzchak. And then he can see the truth, because he had no more hopes of getting Yitzchak for himself. But while he still harbored hopes of having Yitzchak as his son-in-law, he couldn't see that he was motivated by his interest. And he said Ulai, meaning Eli, but there was a but there. He didn't realize. Am I understood? Last time we met, we spoke about Amunah. And the question remained unanswered. Why is it that, being that, as we discussed this last session, being that every Jew has an instinctive belief in God, because he is a Jew, because he is a descendant of Avraham Avinu, the father of all the believers, because he is a Jew, why is it that there are Jews who don't believe? And I answered that's only a partial answer, that a person can sometimes get sick on his amunah, just like any person can become sick physically by eating the wrong food, and he will lose his appetite, and his organism won't function the way a healthy organism should function. So the same thing is with the spiritual organism. He won't have the yearning, and he won't feel the presence of Hashem. Just like a person who spoiled his stomach won't have any appetite to food, even though he needs the nourishment of the food. He spoiled his stomach. So this is why many Jews, unfortunately, don't believe in Hashem. But there's more to it than that. There is a cloud that a person, as I just mentioned before, can be blinded by his own interest. whatever he wants to think, he wishfully thinks, even though it may not be true. And, they saw that story of the wolf who came to the vineyard and saw luscious, gorgeous, delicious grapes, and he wanted to eat those grapes. And he tried to climb over the fence, go into this vineyard and eat the grapes, but the fence was too high for him. He couldn't climb it. So he tried 3 days and 3 nights to climb the fence, and he wasn't successful. At last the wolf turns around and says, sour grapes. Unbelievable. Now, this happens in our daily lives over and over. This wolf did not want to admit to himself that he hasn't got the strength and the ability to climb over the fence. He won't admit his weakness, that he is inadequate, he can't reach the grapes. He's all right. The grapes are no good. This is what happened. When a person feels that he wants to follow his temptation. He wants to enjoy life, even that which is forbidden. And he sees a red light. The Torah says, stop, you can't enjoy this. You can't eat this. You can't go to the beach on Shabbos or any other day. And you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that. And he has a temptation. He wants to do these things. He wants to enjoy. He wants to indulge. So, what is he going to say? He's all right. Chas v'sholem, the Torah isn't good. He doesn't believe in the Torah. This is what generally happens. What happens when somebody, let's say, studies and he isn't very successful at his studies, and so the teacher will say, a student studies, and the teacher will say, why aren't you making any headway? So we'll say, well, the lighting isn't sufficient. There's no consolation in this. The teacher is boring. Everything is wrong, but he is okay. Nothing wrong with him. Nothing wrong with him. Let's say somebody is building the circuit, and he isn't in construction, and he's building the circuit, and he always manages, instead of hitting the nail on the head, he hits his thumb. They say, what's wrong with his hammer? He won't admit that he doesn't know how to handle a hammer. The hammer is no good. That's how it works. As we discussed this last time, the whole world, the whole universe, our entire environment cries out loud and shrill that there is a creator. You see it. You see it within yourself, and you see it outside of yourself. The way this world is conducted, the way the entire universe functions, and each part of it is worked together with the other parts. The way the botany and biology work together, the way they are independent, the way they are interdependent one upon the other, and everything fits and everything matches, as we discussed at length last time. That proclaims to all that there is a creator. So why are there people that intend, that would come up with ideas that of evolution or other such theories which don't hold water, which anybody would realize and admit with a little truth, anybody with a little truth will admit that they're all nonsense. The time doesn't allow to go too much into this. Why don't they admit? Many years ago, it was about 40 years ago, I was teaching class. I taught the 5th grade. And the kids came to me and they said, they told me that what the teacher has told them in the general studies department about evolution, and that everything started with from the seas, and then life started to develop on the ground, and this, that, and all that, and with the theories, and with the proofs of the theories, and that the world is billions of years old, and all that. I told them a little story. In the office, 2 people just came from Africa, and they never have seen civilization. These 2 people were very intelligent people, but they were just introduced to civilization. For the first time in their lives, they saw a watch, and they were explained that this watch keeps time. And they were wondering, they were very curious people, and wondering what makes the watch tick. Now, in those days, watches ticked. What makes the watch tick? Why did it keep time? And they're walking back and forth, and they tied wet towels to their heads because they were so engrossed in thinking. And one of them jumps up. He has a theory. He knows how this watch works. Inside of this watch, there are circular tubes, larger tubes, thicker tubes, and thinner tubes. In each tube, there's a bug. The bug has a splinter driven into his nose, and at the end of the splinter, there's a piece of cheese. His tail is attached to a string. The bug moves around and perpetually runs after the cheese, and the string pulls the hands of the watch. Now there are big bugs and small bugs, big tubes and small tubes. So that's why some of the hands move more rapidly than the others, and that's how you can tell time. And the other African was very happy and very satisfied with this theory. It makes a lot of sense. And he walked back and forth and tried to, think more deeply. Perhaps does it hold water? Does it not hold water? And all of a sudden, the other African jumps up. He can prove the theory. Because if you would take this watch and put it next to your ear, you can actually hear the stamping of the bugs stamping around it. So you have a theory and you have a proof. So he walked into the principal's office, and so they told the principal about their findings. So the principal said, yes, very smart, very good. I have an idea. You can verify your theory and your proof if you would go next to us to the library. There is a book. You can find the book which was written by a watchmaker. And he tells you how he made a watch, and see if it fits. If it fits to your theory. Now, the Rabbeinu Shalom made a world, and people are pondering what makes the world tick. Why does it exist? So, one comes up with one theory, and then another one proves it. 10 years later, it's disproven, and they come up with another theory, and then it's proven again. And that's how this keeps up. Now, why ponder? Why wonder how the world was made? There is a book written by the world maker. It's called the Chumash Bereshis. Learn the Chumash. Learn how Bereshis bara Elokim, how the Rebbeinu created the world. Learn the Mephoshim. Learn it with Ramban, with Rashi, with Ramban, with Midrashim, with the deeper Sfarim. You're going to be enlightened, and you're going to be satisfied with whatever you're going to see there. You're going to see wonders, the flaws in Torah. You're going to see wonders in the Torah, wonders in the creation. If you would study the book of the Creator, that would be acceptable to them if the book would finish with the end of creation and that's it. But after the story of creation, there's more in the Chumash. The Chumash will tell you what to do and what not to do. So when they see that, it doesn't suit them. Just like when the Rebbeinu Shalom came to Esav to be mekabel, to accept the Torah, Esav said, I can't accept the Torah. So don't murder, and I live on my sword. And when the Rebbeinu Shalom came to Yishmael, to the Arabs, and said, be mekabel the Torah, they said, we can't accept the Torah, because the Torah says you have to lead a clean and moral life, and we can't do that. So they rejected the Torah. And this is why perhaps I would say the scientists and the others reject the Torah. They reject the Rebbeinu Shalom's account of how the world was made. And they don't care for his book. They'd rather make their own theories and come up with their own bugs and their own tubes and their own cheese and have their story how the world was made. Because if they would accept God's version, then it's just like for them, it's just like driving a car with the brakes on. They have to go through life and enjoy life, and they can't do that. So this is why they don't accept the Torah. And there is a psychological term for that. It's denial. In the or they, this is like I explained before, that when the wolf can't jump over the fence, he's going to deny that it is because of his inability to climb over that fence. He will say it's wrong, something else is wrong, but I'm all right. This is how they're going to think. A person can go through his whole life not believing in Hashem until he becomes old and gray and he's taken to a nursing home. And when you go to the nursing home and see all those old people, you're going to see many of them are saying Tehillim and trying to daven and trying maybe to learn something. All these people that during their life they weren't religious at all of a sudden when they come to the nursing home and they're aging, they become religious. What happened to all of a sudden? What happened is this. When they were young, so they were interested in the pursuit of their pleasures and nothing else. So therefore, it didn't serve them to believe in God. So, like the wolf who sets our grapes, they'll find other reasons why this world is existing. The world was created by Mother Nature or Mother Goose or whoever created it, but not by a God who is directing you and who is requiring you to live His way. Now, when they grow old, they can't pursue their lusts anymore. The doctor says you can't eat this and you can't do that and you can't, and they can't enjoy life anymore. So therefore, their negiah, the reason why they didn't want to accept God to begin with, is now not pending anymore. So now they start believing. However, not everybody is motivated alike. There are two words in Hebrew which rhyme, ta'iva and gaiva. Ta'iva means lust, and gaiva means conceit. These are two forces which direct a person's life. There are some people that are directed in the course of their life by their temptations, by their pursuit of pleasures, by taiva. And then there are other persons who are directed by ambition, by gaiva, by their wanting to be big, by their wanting to be great, by their desire to be powerful, by their haughtiness, by their conducting themselves as if the whole world is theirs. These people don't do tshuva when they grow old, because the gaiva is still intact. In fact, it grows with age. But the people who are motivated by taiva, they're the ones who do tshuva. Well, these are two types of people. So, this is the story of the ulai and the elai. When a person is still under the force and of his temptations, he doesn't see the truth. But when he is relieved of these forces of temptation, then he can say elai without the thought. Then he sees the truth. And as we said last time, every Jew instinctively believes in the providence. Now, as I mentioned before, there are people who will rationalize. They will build up their own theories and rationalize and lie to themselves and excuse themselves why they don't keep the Torah, because the Torah doesn't suit them. It is more comfortable for them to live without the Torah. Well, that's rationalization. But that's not the truth. If they'd be made, if they'd admit to the truth, then their whole life would be different. So, coming back, but as I said last time, a person instinctively believes in the providence. Every Jew believes. He has it from his haggasha, from his instincts, from his feelings. He has something within him is telling him that Hashem is his father, because a child instinctively knows his father, as we discussed with last time. So, our emunah really, besides that we could intellectually, with thought, come upon the truth that there is a God who created everything. But besides the intellectual way of arriving at this truth, there is also a feeling in a person, in a Jew. The intellectual way could be that even a Goyim can have. And that's why they're kept responsible for that. The Goyim will be kept responsible why they didn't believe in Hashem. However, they could have figured it out with their minds, with their brains. But a Jew, besides the intellectual approach, also has a sort of an inner feeling, an instinct that there is a God in the world, because he's a child Avraham Avinu. He has this feeling b'Yerusha. It's hereditary, because we are all children of Avraham Avinu, the first believer. And as I explained, the Jewish nation is a species by themselves. They are a species which instinctively has this inborn knowledge that there is a God in the world. And we have that through heredity. And this is a feeling rather than an intellect. And therefore, emunah, belief in Hashem, comes from the mother, not from the father. The Maral explains, why is it that Pesach at night we have 3 matzahs and 4 cups of wine? Why 3 and why 4? So he explains that matzah, which comes from wheat, the Gemara says that a child can call his father by his name. He can say father, he can say daddy, when he starts eating grain, when he starts eating, the material that bread is made from. When he starts eating grain or cereal or bread, whatever it is, when he's tayim tamzagan, when he tastes the first taste of grain, he already can say Abba, he can say Father. That's what the Gemara says. It seems that grain gives a certain seichel, it gives a certain intellect to a person. It's knowledge. And he knows his father. And the matzah is 3 matzahs, which are symbolic of our 3 fathers, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. The 4 kaises are the 4 imahis, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. Wine is not intellect. Wine is emotional. A person's emotions it will be stirred up, and they will be released if he drinks wine. As far as the intellect is concerned, wine is going to subdue the intellect, and it's going to surface the emotion. Men are more apt to be intellectual. Women are more apt to be emotional. So therefore we have 3 masters. Connected with Shloisha Avos, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, which is intellect. And we have 4 cases of wine, which is emotion, for our 4 mothers, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. That's how the Maral explains it. That's why we have 3 masters and 4 cases. Now, the emunah by a Jew is not the fruit of his intellect only. More than that, it's his emotion. It's an inner feeling, an inner instinct. It's more emotion than intellect. Therefore, emunah comes from the mother. If a Jew would marry a Gentile woman, the child is not going to be Jewish. Emunah, the belief in Hashem, originates from the mother. And if the mother is not Jewish, the child won't have emunah, and he is not Jewish. If a Jewish mother marries a Gentile, the child will be Jewish, because the mother is Jewish. Everything else comes from the father. The father is the deciding factor in the shevet of the child. Let's say if the father is a Kohen and the mother is not, she does not come from a Kohen family, the child is going to be a Kohen. If the mother is a Kohenet and the father is not, the child will not be a Kohen or a Levi, or whichever shevet he comes from, whichever tribe of the 12 tribes he comes from. Because in everything, in Yerusha, in Shvatim, in almost everything, the father, the son is the extension of the father, and it takes over everything the father has. But there's one exception: his faith. Whether he's going to be a Jew or not, that doesn't depend on the father. That depends on the mother. Because the Jewish nation is different than all other peoples, because they instinctively believe in the Rabbeinu Shalom. And that is an emotion, it's not intellect. And being that Jewishness is an instinct by a Jew, and that's why he is a Jew, because he's a child, because he's a descendant of Avraham Avinu. So this quality, this characteristic of instinctively believing in Hashem is his heritage from his mother, not from his father. It comes from the mothers. You know, in Lashon HaKodesh, which is the language with which Hashem created the world, in Lashon HaKodesh there are many clues to creation, because Hashem created the world with Lashon HaKodesh, as the Gemara says. That's why Ish and Isha, man and woman, Isha ki meyishlu kachazais. Mikan shenivra olam b'Lashon HaKodesh. From this passage we see the world was created with Lashon HaKodesh. In Lashon HaKodesh there is a law in grammar that every verb which ends with a nun, if you would transform it into a noun, it would lose the last letter, the nun. Now, let's see, shanon. Shanon means to study. You shall teach the Torah to your you shall teach the Torah to your children. Now, how are you supposed to teach the Torah? You're supposed to teach it in a manner that the child should know it well. He should be sharp at it. As the Gemara says, the words of Torah shall be sharp in your mouth. When you're asked the question, be ready with the answer, with a sharp answer, and don't be, don't try to go looking for a reply. You know, it isn't at your disposal yet. You're going to start thinking. The Torah requires you to study Torah, and in such a way that you will always be ready with the correct, sharp, and precise answer. So that's what shanon means. Learn it sharply, mechudad, sharp. The Torah should be sharp. Shanon means sharp. Now, shanon is a verb which means to learn something in a sharp manner. And if we would want to transform it into a noun, and we would drop the last nun, then we have the word shane, a tooth. Why is shane a tooth? Because a tooth is sharp. Let's say ganon means to protect. Ganon means to protect. if we would want to transform this into a noun, we would drop the last nun, and it would become gan. Gan means a garden which is protected with a fence. Chanan means to favor. You favor us with knowledge. If we would drop the last nun and transform it into a noun, the word is chain, favor. Amon means to believe. Amon means to believe. If we would drop the last nun and transform it into a noun, we have the word aim, a mother. Emunah comes from the mother. Knowledge, intellectual knowledge, comes from the father. Will, knowledge, Ratzstein, the will to do something, is called avo, to want to do something, because a will is motivated by chachma, by knowledge. He knows what he wants, and therefore he pursues to attain what his Ratzstein motivates him to pursue. So that's where the word of comes from. Of means to want, this is the fruit of knowledge, of knowing. So aim is the mother, because emunah comes from the mother. Belief comes from the mother. Because by the Jew, it's emotional. Not and as far as the intellectual knowledge of godliness, he can share that with a guy also, but he has something above that. By him it's instant, by him it's emotion, it's a feeling, like wine which warms up and he feels it. A person drinks wine, he feels it. And it stirs him up. But plain knowledge is cold. It's the opposite of wine. So that's where our emunah comes from. So we have in the Torah that in Parshas Shmos that Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu to go and redeem the Jews from Egypt. So Moshe Rabbeinu said, what if they won't believe me? So the Bnei Shalom said, they will believe you. And Rashi brings the Gemara there, and Rashi says that Hashem answered, no, they're maminim b'nei maminim. That believers, the children of believers. In other words, Hashem said, of course they're going to believe you, because they come from a seed of belief. They are a strain. It's a certain strain, a certain seed which believes instinctively in Hashem. They're maminim b'nei maminim. Of course they're going to believe. They have it instinctively. Because the Jews have the emunah with instinct. They believe it. So this is one of the one of the methods how a Jew can really believe, by keeping his organism healthy, by not doing availance, just like the physical organism is kept healthy by what keeps the physical organism healthy, around a well-balanced diet, a healthy atmosphere, warm when it's supposed to be warm and cool when it's supposed to be cool, and if he sticks to the rules of health, he will be healthy. Same thing is with the person's spiritual organism. If he sticks to the rules, if he'll keep the ways of the Torah, he won't contaminate himself. He won't poison himself with the Aveirus, then of course he's going to enjoy health, good spiritual health, and he will instinctively and healthily function like a Jew should to believe in God. Okay? If he eats treifus, if he is immoral, if he doesn't keep Shabbos, and or any of the Tayyag mitzvahs, then of course his belief is going to be sickened. He will be sick on Emunah. That is going to be a malady that he's going to suffer from until he goes through a course of refuah, of healing, according to the laws of refuah. He'll take certain prescriptions from the chachamim, from those who know Torah and they'll know how to heal his nefesh, how to heal his soul, and then he will regain his natural belief, from which he was deprived because he went away from the way of the Torah. So this is what our Emunah is based on. We are children of Avraham Avinu, Maminim b'nei Maminim. We believe instinctively in the Rabbeinu Shalom, and that's why we are Jews. And the idea is to remain healthy Jews by keeping the Torah. And then when a Jew does keep the Torah, it must follow like the day follows the night, that he will see the light. He must become healthy again on his own. However, this emunah is something we're born with, and we are also required to nurture and to develop our emunah through learning Torah and understanding God and studying about it, learning about it, delving into these inyanim. But with Torah alone, we don't have to go into philosophy, into thoughts, abstract thoughts of godliness, and try to figure out that there is a God, because that won't bring us anywhere. We have the Messiah. We're going to discuss that in Yeshua at a later session. We have a heritage, and absolute proof that there is a God, and that the Torah was given on the Har Sinai, and we were Mekabelit. We accepted that from our parents, our rabbis, who accepted it from their parents and their rabbis, all the way up to Sinai. And this, Emir Hashem, we're going to concentrate on at another session. However, philosophy, going into abstract thought and trying to prove godliness, that won't bring us anywhere. There was a time when Jews perhaps did do work in this field, the Rambam and other great Chachamim, but it isn't for us. It's dangerous for us, because this is for Goshim, for very holy people of previous generations who were much greater than we are, and they were able to understand godliness through philosophy, through thought, but it isn't for us, because, actually, philosophy is import as far as the Jew is concerned. It's alien. You will never find in Chumash, in the Nevi'im or Ksuvim, you will never find in the Gemara, or in the Medrash, or in the Zohar, or any of the where the Torah tries to prove with thought that there is a God in the world, or that the Torah was given from the house. This is alien. This is an import. Jews live among Goyim, especially, in Spain and some Arab nations, where the Goyim were philosophizing, and they wrote books on that. So the Chachamim, the Jewish sages, also wrote books because they felt it necessary to offset the influence of the writings of the Goyim. But the true emunah of a Jew comes from two sources, from his instinct, and more yet, the mitzvah of emunah, the mitzvah of believing in Hashem, because we have that mitzvah, because it was passed down to us. And this, I'm going to explain in probably later next week. Philosophy can bring this anywhere. We're not equipped for it. Anyway, philosophy is not the medium with which we could understand godliness. Because philosophy is based on our mind, and our mind cannot go into the abstract. Hashem did not create the human mind to understand the abstract. Because the mind, like all our other organs of the body, were formed and they were given to us to function in this world with numbers and with all the items that we meet and we are introduced to in our environment. But if a person would start thinking, what's ahead? What's at the end of time? When time ends, what's there? He can get crazy. If a person would start thinking, what's at the end of space? If he'll keep on thinking about it and go off his mind. Because it's not necessary for our functioning in this planet, and therefore our mind was not formed for this purpose. And we cannot understand godliness. Our mind cannot understand godliness. Now, supposing somebody is going to tell you that he went to Carnegie Hall and he saw a wonderful symphony. You're going to tell him that he's crazy. You don't see a symphony. You hear a symphony. Suppose somebody will tell you that he went to the museum and he listened to a most wonderful painting, something which out of the world does a painting, and you listen to that painting. You don't listen to a painting. You see a painting. Now, the reason why I can't see music is not because my eyes are too weak. My eyes can be 1,000 times stronger than they are, so I won't see music. And the reason why I can't listen to a painting is not because my ears are too weak. My ears can be much stronger. They can be much sharper, and still I won't be able to listen to a painting. Because this is not the sense which is applied to a painting. The sense of sight is applied to a painting, and the sense of hearing is applied to music. And when somebody is going to use his brain to understand God, it's just like trying to use his ears to listen to a painting. It just won't work. The organ, which is the ear, the sense, which is hearing, cannot understand godliness. It's above that. The number 5 is a very small number. We are aware of our entire environment only with 5 senses. Imagine if we would have 100 senses. Or the opposite. Imagine if Chaz V'Shalom senses would be missed. That's what Shalom if somebody is blind. How much he's missed. How much he doesn't know of his environment, or if he is deaf, how much he's missing. So we know our entire environment only from 5 senses. If we would have 1,000 senses, we'd be aware of many more things. Now, the 5 senses that we have, none of them could see or hear or understand God. There is a sense of understanding God. That's a 6th sense, which Jews have, but unfortunately, by most of them, it's not developed. This 6th sense is called Ruach HaKodesh. With Ruach HaKodesh, Nebuah, or Ruach HaKodesh, with prophecy, we can see and understand godliness. But Ruach HaKodesh is something which is not for everybody. Every Jewish neshama has Ruach HaKodesh. Our neshama is in contact with God. But anybody who does Aveirus, and who is even the slightest Aveirus, so his mind, his brain, the gray matter of his brain, not make contact with his neshama. You know, there is a chetitza in between. Just like, you know, when you have an electric wire with an electric current going through it. But if there is insulation over it, you know, like every electric wire is insulated with the plastic or whatever it has on the outside, then we won't feel the electricity. So the same thing, you know, our mind, our brain does not have contact with our neshama because the Aveirus that a person does insulates and it generates some contact with his neshama. So we don't see God and we don't understand godliness. The tzaddik who is a Navi, who has Ruach HaKodesh, he understands godliness. But not the brain. It's a 6th sense. Something which only tzaddik can have, and which every Jew has in his potential. He could have it if he would work himself up to that. Unfortunately, in our generation, there are very few people who have it. But still, according to his tzidkus, to the degree that he is a tzaddik, he feels it. You know, because even when the electric wire is insulated, there is still some electricity which goes through. You know, there's a sphere of electricity. There's an electric sphere from which magnetism comes, which can penetrate the insulation. And therefore, to the degree that somebody is a tzaddik, he feels godliness, and he is aware that there is a God. And if he does more Aveirus, that feeling is going to be lacking altogether. He won't have it anymore because there's too much insulation. So this is that with our mind we can't understand God. Even though the entire world, the entire universe tells us that there is a God. But if we can't understand it with our mind, we're just aware of it because we see the products of godliness. We see the world which God created, like this wonderful mashal that the Chayvas al-Zavim said, that somebody came into a room and he saw a gorgeous painting, and with a poem underneath the painting which describes the painting. The painting was a masterpiece of art. The poem was a masterpiece of literature. Who wrote this poem? Who painted this painting? So somebody told them that there was a sheet of paper on the floor and on the closet there were mountains of ink of all colors, and then somebody opened the window and a gust of wind came in and just threw down it turned over the mountains of ink and it splashed down upon the paper. And that's how you have this painting of the landscape and everything, and that's how you have this poem. Who that you're not. It can't have godliness. And we can see God on that masterpiece. And whoever will tell you that this masterpiece came by itself, I mean, it just, it's Chazal, we know more than that. That the Malach says, let's play with the plane. So we tell him, no, you were wrong. Then he says, oh, it tries again, until we hit it on the head. But even the Malach doesn't know. The high Indian, just like Malchus based service. Shmuel Hanadi knew everything, but not Malchus based service. When the Rebbeinu Shalom tells him to go to Yishai and be Moshe and anoint one of the children for the king, he took the oldest son, Uru. That's the Mashiach, that's the Gezalta. The Rebbe says, don't look at it, don't give attention how he looks. I don't want it. He tried the next son, until he tried all his sons. The Rebbe said, I didn't mean him. So he asked Yisha, do you have any other son? So he said, yeah, I have a son, I help his name. He's nothing. He's taking care of the sheep. His name is David. So he says, I want him. He brings David. The Rebbe says, this is the Mashiach. This is the Gezalta, the anointed one. And he spilled the Shemana Mishra on him. The father shidduch is a double nistama'id. There are, I'm not up to date, I believe about 6 billion people in the world. And out of these, so 3 billion Mustama are the caves. So 3 billion are Mustama Zacharim, more or less. So out of the 3, any one of those shidduch takes one of the 3 billion in the world, and this is what the Rebbeinu Shalom sent this way. So it doesn't list on the right, and that's good one. Sometimes a person can lose his shidduch through a virus, especially if a shalom through the gamma bris, but if he doesn't do tshuva, he might lose his shidduch. But generally, people do get the shidduch. And so everything is controlled by the Rebbeinu Shalom. So the Tzemach Tzedek says that to bring down the shidduch all the way down into this world, into Olam Hazeh, is to drag down a big kedusha into this chayshich world. What you need something to bring some gashmias into that shidduch. It's so heilig. So therefore, the derech is, it's usually that way, that by every shidduch there's a lie. The Shastra says a lie. And because of that, he urges somebody and persuades him into a certain shidduch. If that person would have known that lie, he wouldn't have gone into it. So because of the sheker, and sheker is a false, sheker is the mitzvah sheker tiyachak. The Rebbe is hates sheker. Hashem became madness. So by every avayah, the Rebbe says, don't do the avayah. By sheker, it's not enough not to do the avayah. To go away from it. Mitzvah sheker tiyachak. The perfect. So they say a shekel, somebody tells him a lie, and because of that he goes into the shidduch. And after the chasna he finds out. You should all have a good knife. Nobody finds the shidduch after the marriage as he thought it was before. It's a surprise. You should have all of you, we should have good surprise when the time comes. Al Kafanim, need the shekel. Otherwise, it wouldn't go. Doesn't matter what Tzedek says. Eigentlich, there's halachas in the Shulchan Aruch and Choshen Mishpat that you're supposed to pay a shach. And if you don't pay a shach, then it's gezeiva. And there are many mindses that I know of, and that I read about, and that I know of personally, where there was no shalom bayis. So they came to a tzaddik, and they asked the tzaddik, what can we do? So the tzaddik asks, did you pay the shadchan? People try to answer the shidduch, well, you didn't. I knew it without you. You're not real. I would have done it without you. So, you pay the shadchan, the shalom bayis returns. So it's a chiyuv to pay the shadchan. Why? Because he did you a service. You have to pay for the service. Why should you pay? The Rebbe should make shiduchim. Why should you pay? Well, life studies that the answer is you don't pay for making the shidduch. You're paying for saying the lie. But the Rebbe should do everything for you to make your shidduch, but he won't say a lie for you. You need somebody to say a lie, so it's not you pay the shadchan. So now we come back to Rabbi Yankiv. Rabbi Yankiv didn't say other tzarnit. He said, shadchan is shekel, greater than a cast of snowtail. In other words, why should you pay them the shadchan? Then it is for saying the lie. Shekel daiva, because it says shekel, cast of snowtail. He can take the money. After all, he did a service. He did a service. Like fixing your sink. It's a service. Yeah. So it says, Luli Hashem es Rasali, Kemachach Neduma Nafshi. Ashadchem. He's vicious. Not all Shadchanim, but pretty many Shadchanim, they're vicious. They know they can take $2,000 from each shad. Sometimes they ask for more. Sometimes you give them less. And so he goes with determination, even if you do a shidduch. And the shadchan doesn't get you into trouble. But the Rabbanu Shalom takes care of you. A shidduch is called an Eiza. Eiza Knegdei. So the pasuk says, Luli Hashem is Rasali. If not, the Rabbanu Shalom would have been my Eiza to help me in the shidduch. Kemachach Neduma Nafshi. I would have been doomed. I would have gone to doom at a malach of Nisa. But the Reish is my Rasali. It says in the Medrash, that when Yaakov Avinu went to Chara to get a shidduch, he said to Kapitel, Shir Malach, Ezra Mayani Ezra Hashem. It says in Sfarim, somebody's looking for a shidduch, remember when the time comes, you should say it. So in Shmoneh said, before you step out of Yisrael, you should say this kapitel and ask Ezra Hashem. So the pasuk says, Luli Hashem, Rasali, not right. We should give some ayah, but Kemat Shach Neduma Nafshi. Kemat Shach Neduma Nafshi is Rashatai the Shach. If I would have relied on that Shach, who knows what would have happened with me. But the Rebbe takes care of me. So don't be scared. In the Parsha, we find that Eliezer was sent to find a shidduch. This Parsha is a Parsha of shiduchim. There's a minute by this founding that when there's a chassan in the shul, they take us two Sefer Torahs. The one Sefer Torah, they read the Seder of the week, and the second Sefer Torah, they learn, in the second Sefer Torah, they learn the Parsha of the Avram Zaken Baba Yaakov, and they read the whole Parsha of Shidduch. How the Shidduch of Yitzchak and Rivka came to be. Because in that Parsha, there's the Seitas and the Ashbais and the Brachis of the Shidduch. The Shidduch which is described by the Torah Gedosha in detail. So from this Parsha, we should learn now years from now, but I don't know if there will be somebody around several years from now that will tell it to you. So I'm saying it now, that you should without zugehen dazu, you have to approach it, the Kedusha, the Tahara, and be careful. Chaz v'shalom, don't be nifshel and aveiros ordering before in all your boyhood and your young years, because Chaz v'shalom, through that you make it more difficult that the shidduch should come your way. And there's a minute today that you meet 10 times, 12 times, 15 times, 40 times. It's not necessary. The Gemara says that I should see her. See her once and fantastic. But I'm not telling you that you should see her once. Don't quote me. I didn't say that. Because it'll be on the furnace, and because it's against the Minig America. But you don't have to see 40 times. That you could say in my name. You see him not, because you won't find out too much from seeing anyway. You won't find out too much from seeing. You have to be basic, that need a study, and that you can't find out from meeting. But the Indian is this week's Saturday. Rav Moshe Wolfson, she was a German tzaddik. He wasn't a Yid with a streimel on white socks. A German Yid, a German rabbin, writes in his name on the Chumash. Look how Yidden do a shidduch. The father sends a Eliezer to get Rivka, and that's the Yitzchak shidduch. That's Yitzchak shidduch. Rabbi Yankov Kamenetsky, the Chayna of Racha, told us how he did a shidduch, how he married his Rebbe. He was father of the Rav, and the Meduberes, the one who was taught, daughter of a big Rav, mother yeshiva. And the mother went and saw the Meduberes, and she came back with a good report. But the Gemara says, that doesn't kind of. So they made up in between the two towns where they lived. There was a third town, and they meet in the house of the Rav in between. So he comes there, and he sits down, and he starts speaking a falpul, a pilpul with the Rav, then she comes in with a tray of coffee and cake, puts down the tray on the table, he gives a glance and says, Adank, and she answers bitte, which means you're welcome, and she walks out, and that was much as he saw of her until the Chutna. That's all a bit for you to do a shidduch. I'm not speaking about Ungarische to Polish, Chassid and Belzel to Satmar or Zagero. I'm not speaking about that. I'm speaking about a Litvak. That's what the Yiddish Litvak is you to do a shidduch. Today, if somebody will say that, alright, you say that. But that's how Yidden used to do, and there was much less Yidden than today, much less Yidden, much less Shabbat than today. So you see that in this week's parasha. That's how the Rav Moshe Wolfson here points out that's what shidduch should be made. I'm telling you to you, you should know how falsch, how nicht Yiddish the American culture is. That's how it is. I'm talking to the wall, but at least you should know that there has to be a gevul. There has to be a gevul. So this week's Seder, Eliezer was the first shadchan, and he negotiated and made a whole shidduch. And he brought back a father kekala for Yitzchak. So his name is Meir Badik Bishma. Rabbi Meir was buried in Shemus. By hearing a person's name, we knew what this person is. We're going to talk more about it, Be'ez Hashem, yet this month. So, Rabbi Meir Badik Bishma, he is being that the most important thing that Eliezer accomplished in his life, being a servant to Avram Avinu, was the shidduch that he did for Yitzchak. And there's a whole parasha about it. In the whole parasha, we don't have once Eliezer's name mentioned. Gewalt. Why is he called Eliezer? Because he came in this world, that was a zikr shlichus, to do shiduchim. Eliezer. My Ezer comes to me, Ezer Miyam Hashem. And the Rebbeinu Shalom makes the Ezer. That's why he's his name. Why by Yomer Avraham Avitoi the Kan Beisa Hamayisha B'Charasher Life, and it doesn't mention his name. And then it says Fa'ish, and sometimes Eved Avraham Anoichi. Doesn't mention his name. Why not? Well, the reason why a shidduch can't be done without a ligon, without any shekel, is because of the chitzchik. You got to throw something to the sun. There's a minion. We're not allowed to do it. But when the Torah tells us to do it, we do it. The Satan is a mekachek. He always likes to spoil things for us. The Satan is called a kelev. What? When you're eating a fine food, among Gayim, when people eat a fine food and there's a kelev and he wants to jump in the table and eat more, so what do? You throw him a bone. So you have manucha. Sometimes you have to throw him a bone. But we're not allowed. Because it's a very brother. He's a tumor. He's a very bizarre. He's the Malach HaMavis. He's the Yetzirah. He's the son. So, but when the Torah tells us, we do it. A very classical reason where the Torah tells us to do it is by Yom Kippur. You bring the carbon to Korban Yisrael. You bring 2 Sigirim. One goes into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, his blood, Soyer Echad L'Hashem, the Soyer Echad L'Azazayim. And one Soyer goes to Azazayim, to the Kerev. And you take him a little bit of Gezerah, and it's for the servant. And the Zayah sometimes, where the halacha and the halacha is so, we do it by very important mitzvahs, where the Satan won't let us do it unless we give him something. Zum Beispiel by the Tefillin. Tefillin is a mighty mitzvah. And you have to be very, very didactic in Tefillin. You should have kosher at Tefillin. To have a tzlacha v'yid is in this Tefillin. Picture Tefillin v'chalat ha'ilakula, the Gemara says in Kiddush. It brings the Kiddush and the emunah into a yid. So you have to have kosher at Tefillin and put on Tefillin with kavanah, because that's the assignment of emunah. In Tefillin you have Achdus Hashem, the emunah that Reibish says Yazid Miyachad. It says over there Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, and you have the Yetzias Mitzrayim, which is the assignment of emunah. Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Tzitziach Me'eretz Mitzrayim. That's the mitzvah of emunah. And where is the Kedusha? Put on Tefillin to Kedusha. And not be Masir Das from the Tefillin. And be careful if you're Machshavus while you're wearing the Tefillin. Al Kapanim, being that Tefillin is such a big mitzvah, so the Satan is jealous and he wants to hurt us when we put on Tefillin. So we have to throw him something. Given that there's a shtickle chaylik in the mitzvah. So what do? night one, there's a few hairs coming out. You probably know it, and if not, expect it for tomorrow morning. There's 2 or 3 tiny little hairs sticking out. These hairs come from the goat, a seiya. We give it this chaylik in the tefillah, just like the seiya lazazay, just like the soil lazazay. Not a mitzvah, we also do such things, but a very big mitzvah. And that's my machrayim also, a very big mitzvah to the food that a person eats. We're so not accustomed to do things the right way. We really should do it. When a person eats, he's giving himself life. The Rebbeinu Shalom gives him kaifet into the food for his life. So he has to be careful. It should be chayim shel toira, chayim shel bracha, chayim she'evan yira shemayim, yira tzchait. So he should be careful when he eats. There's so many mitzvahs with eating in the food that we eat, especially in Eretz Yisrael. There's so many mitzvahs in the food that we eat, trumais, meitzvahs, challah, and even the chutzlaret, all the dinim. There's something like 11 mitzvahs, and then when the bread comes to us already, it needs to yadayim, you make a bracha, and then you dip the hamaiti in salt 3 times the Shem Havaya, melach, 3 times the Shem Havaya, and then you make a bracha with kavanah. 10 words are on the hamaiti lechem in the earth, neged yasara mamarit shabem nivra oilam, and you make the Shem Shemayim, and you have to bench, and bichas hamazainas, and the baraisa, b'chalta, b'svata, b'rachta. So it's after when we eat the food, there's so many mitzvahs involved, the servant can get jealous and be mazikas in some way, or Chaz V'Shalom be machshalas in some way. So we throw him something. That's the mind machrayim. As I say this further, Akapanim, by a general shidduch, we have to throw something to him. So what does the servant get from a general shidduch that he shouldn't be in the Catholic? The Gemara says, "Like exuberant the Vayrama by Tekra." So what do we give him? We give him the sheker of the Shabbat. He gets it. He enjoys it. That's his food, the sheker. That's what the tzitchach is nourished on sheker and flow food. We give him that. The shidduch after Yitzchak and Rivka was so heilig, so kodesh kedoshim, the servant couldn't do nothing there. So by this only shidduch, you didn't have to say a lie. The servant can't do nothing. It was kodesh kedoshim from the beginning to the side. And the shidduch doesn't need you should be megashim. It should come into Olam Hazeh. You don't need no lie. So the Eliezer said, and this week says when he made the shidduch, I went through emes. He didn't lie. He didn't tell Psuel or Lavan anything wrong about the shidduch. He told them the complete truth. Being that it was emes, you don't need the shadchan. He was just a shliach for Avraham Avinu, but not of the shadchan. The Rebbeinu Shalom does this without the shadchan, so his name isn't mentioned here. He's not the shadchan. But we know that the shayra shavuot shadchanim is Eliezer. Kayli Eichel. The Rebbeinu Shalom give me my shidduch. So the whole parasha is a parasha of Hashgacha Pratis. And you see so many inyanim in the parasha where Eliezer thanks to the Rebbeinu Shalom, it's a very touchy parasha. I know from my experience, sometimes when I'm about to say this parasha, and Lein is with Chumash and Rashi, the parasha, sometimes tears come into my eyes. It's a check. touchy parsha, the way Eliezer was mishtatayach, the fishtachas hanefesh was mispalei. So the Rebbeinu Shalom, please make it happen. And then afterwards, he thanks the Rebbeinu Shalom for Eket Mishtachel at Hashem. This parsha tells you something. Tzaddik like Avram Avinu had to marry off his son. A tzaddik like Yitzchak. So a tzaddik is like Yitzchak. And you have to be mispaler. First, how much do you have to be mispaler? And who knows how much we have to be mispaler? Sometimes you have to be mispaler over and over again. Tefillah always helps, but sometimes you need more tefillah. So the Medrash says, Kavi al Hashem, be mispaler to the Shittel by Nishraim, and if you see that your tefillah isn't answered, chazak, don't be discouraged, chazak, yitzach machazak, and daven again. Keep on davening. Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to go into Eretz Yisrael. So we know, Chazal tell us that Moshe Rabbeinu needed 516 tefillahs to go into Eretz Yisrael. If he would have davened 516 tefillahs, he would have gone into Eretz Yisrael. And it would have been the Zman HaTikun, no Chorb and no nothing. So Moshe Rabbeinu davened 515 tefillahs, and Chazal tell us, V'aschanan al Hashem. V'aschanan is the gematria 550. He davened 515 tefillahs. If he would have davened one more tefillah, he would have been able to go into Eretz Yisrael. He would have broke the Gezeirim. So the Rebbeinu begged Moshe Rabbeinu, and Moshe Rabbeinu built it. V'yomer Eilei Hashem, al taisef daber Eilei v'daber hazeh. Please don't daven another tefillah. Because if you do daven another tefillah, you're going to break the mechitza. But the Rebbeinu Shalom is written away that Moshe Rabbeinu shouldn't daven another tefillah. He shouldn't go into Eretz Yisrael. For the purpose of the Day HaMidbar. Because since Moshe Rabbeinu was Nigbar on the Midbar, so when by Chiyos HaMeisim, he's going to take along more than Meisim Midbar and take him to Eretz Yisrael. So we see an interesting thing. For a certain thing, Moshe Rabbeinu was such a big tzaddik. And still, to go into Eretz Yisrael, one tefillah wasn't enough. 515 tefillahs weren't enough. You needed 560. And if the Rebbeinu Shalom knew that it's for the good reason, for the need, that he shouldn't go into Eretz Yisrael, so the Rebbeinu Shalom told them, please don't have another tefillah. I'll tell you the davening like I said over. You sometimes need a lot of tefillah. You have to accumulate a lot of tefillah. So who knows? Maybe you should start davening an hour already. And start saying when you finish Shmoneh, before you know nothing, say this kapitel, the Bnei Yisrael says, that this kapitel is Mesugal, that to help you get a good shidduch, the same kapitel that Yankov Avinu said when he went to get a shidduch. The kapitel in Tehillim, Shir Lamaris, Asein E'el, Man Yevi Evri, and saying the Tachem, Evri Yim Hashem, Elfei Shemayim V'Oretz. And you should have the Shalom Faranai. Ayun Alamayim V'Adelecha Yonim Shemeh. And Rabbi says, Hashem Yisrael, Hashem Yishmach, and Yisrael, Yishmach, Yisrael. Rabbi just says, so you can already start with that. Who knows how many tefillahs? There are 355, on the average, together with Israel, there's 365 days a year. And you can say that 3 times a day. On the Shabbos, when Rosh Chodesh, Yom Tov 4 times a day. And then Yom Kippur 5 times a day. Kippur is 5 tefillahs. They have a chance. And the Yekazach is to be erlach, to be clean, to be pure in your machshava, and your dibber, and your mindset. and dann has a show die Nashel in diesen Jahren, because diesen Jahren, Shmiras Einayim, Shmiras Amachshava, Shmiras Ayadayim, Shmiras Bris Kodesh, diesen Jahren, if you're sure of that, you have much more schus that the Rebbe should help you. Because this is the Atzlacha as a person. A good shidduch can make a person, but has a shadam break a person. But they understand that. And you see, they wanted to be Miyakis, and Levin couldn't be Miyakis. Levin couldn't be Miyakis. You see, Levin Psule wanted to kill Eliezer. He put poison into his food, and then he wanted to take away his money. So the Rebbe made a net, and the Malach came and they changed the dishes. And Psule died the next overnight. He was poisoned by his own poison. Like the Madrashim say, like I think Rashi thinks it's in Chumash. Rashi thinks it here. And the Rebbe should dachten again that no one should harm, no one should get into the way. Eliezer, after they said, okay, so he said, he took out the clothing and the rub and the ketchup and gave to Rivka, gave a wedding present, not only a Chia or the Yigma. And he gave Nigdanais Nash. He thinks he's Nash. Rashi says, Nachalim, Tayyim, meaning the garden that he brought from Eretz Yisrael. Not only a Chia or the Yigma, gave to the brother and to the mother. Why did he give to Psule? And after that he ate, and the dishes were exchanged, and the next morning Psule was dead, so the Yayma Rachia B'Yima. But why did he give any Nigdanis to Psule? It doesn't tell him Nigdanis not on Rachia B'Yima. Now the Teretz is, Eliezer had the Ruach HaKodesh, of course. He was an ungodly B'Dayit. Says, after it's can base, so he was a Zot of Yeshiva, he was a Rosh Hashiva, and that's why it was called the Massacre of the Yeshiva. So Chazal says, Shazayla, Mashkin, the Torah, Chavi, Olachayim. He uses the over Avram Avinu's Shiurim to the Yeshiva. So he was a great man, and he had the Ruach HaKodesh. The Tefillah is there. So why wouldn't he give Nigdanis to Psule also? And I suppose Psule was very offended. No, he was smart. Eliezer knew Ruach HaKodesh and Psule wants to poison. So that's what and he knew that the Malach exchanged. They used him Lefanav Lachayim. They used Sam Lefanav Lachayim. They used Sam. He gave him Sam. And the Malach had changed. Eliezer knew what was going on. So Eliezer gave Nash, he gave the delicacies to Lavan and to the mother, but not to Psule. Because if he would have given to Psule, and the next morning Psule would have died, they would have said Eliezer poisoned Psule. They would have blamed him, and they would have been put into prison or worse, and they would have taken away his money. Eliezer was careful. I'm not giving you any excuse to put a shad on me. I'm not poisoning Psule. Psule poisoned himself. I didn't give him any Nigdanis to eat. He had no food which came from me. He gave. But after that, at night, they said, take. The next morning, already they said no. Narim, Yanim, Yosayon, let us stay. Don't rush, let us stay here. Let's stay here. They changed their mind. Because they saw the big kayach of the Yezra. So Kaushka was of them. And they were the shame to move him, love him, but the Rashi to Mugamo. You know who Lavan was? He was Bilam. In Tagim Yamison says it 2 times in Chumash, in Parshas Balak. El Bilam ben Psayo Psaira. So Tagim Yamison says El Bilam ben Psayo who Lavan, that's Lavan. And another time, when in Parshas Matos, when Pinchas killed Bilam, so the Tagim Yamison says that Pinchas told Bilam, I know who you are. You're a lover. You're a lover. And the message says that. Rabbi Yonasan and the Zil says that. So he was a Hashem Mavoshe. Bilam was always out to have the Shalom be machshel v'di and make tzaddus for him. So when Bilam saw that Eliezer, such a tzaddik, and Reidish made such nisim with him, and he was so careful that he wouldn't give him any Gdani to Tzuel, so he was afraid. But look to me, Rivka, my sister, is getting married in such a tzaddik's house. Oh, they're going to be, and Bilam can't stand when he's not tzaddik. So Lavan changed his mind. So Eliezer told him, watch out, Lavan. You know this all you're praying? He says, I'll be Achapulaisi. Don't make me wait. Hashem is Tzliach Daki. The Reidish was Matzliach my way. You know what I mean. You think I don't know why Psuel died? He wanted to poison me. So you see that Hashem is Tzliach Daki. The Reidish says Matzliach. Don't get in my way, love. And we're going to get to the same, you're going to get to the same Shabbat and stuff that your father Psuel got if you're going to hinder me. But Lavan got scared. And then Lavan wanted to get even on him. He remembered this. And he wanted to get even at Yitzchak's child. And in Yefeshem, Rebbe shows up the Shir Shekam before, when Pasha Sayayaki is going to come, we're going to find out the whole halach yayaveh that went on between Yankov Avinu and Lavan. Although this year is Tavshin Samas will help Mashiach, so you're near to Mashiach alone. You have a very nice Shabbos, and you should know that this Shabbos is Muvah Kislev. The bench of Chaydish Kislev is a Mayadik Chaydish. The Chaydish is Oyah. The Chaydish on Chanukah. Kislev is different than any other Chaydish which has the Yom Tov. Because Kislev, the whole Chaydish is the Yom Tov. It says in Zohar that there are 24 days in Kislev, connected to 24 Isis of Bar Shem Kveit Malchut. And then comes Chafei Kislev, Chafei, connected to Chafei Isis of Shema Yisrael, Shem Elokeinu, and Shem Echad. So that's what the whole Kislev is. Kabbalah Sal Malchut Shemayim. Shema Yisrael, Shem Elokeinu, and Shem Echad, and Bar Shem Kveit Malchut. The Yom Tov. So it's a Mayadik Chaydish. Chaydish is Lichtigkeit. The Chaydish, when Torah had in the Tzachim, when the Lavans and the Psuels had a big Makola, and the Torah came out strong, and the Chashmonayim, Klal Yisrael, and it was Tmeya B'Yat Torah, the Hashem B'Yat Eikes, the Sercha, and the Eikes, the Sercha came out with the big Yeshua with flying colors. Lanke so I see the Yeshua the day before, Shayim Azeh, it's a Chaydish of Rabbi, a Chazik Torah, Chaydish that Klal Yisrael needs a lot of schussim now. Provide schussim. Manufacture schussim. Learn Torah. Do mitzvahs. Give tzedakah. Do everything that can make a nachasur to the Rabbi Shlei. Because Klal Yisrael needs it. Rabbi Shishis which is Kislev, that is Galus, Oyrei Shemalach HaMashiach. That's what it says in order to serve. That in the Chanukah list, there's the beginning of the realized that Oilei Shemelech HaMashiach, the Rebbe should hope it should be zeicha to that, to the full Oilei Shemelech HaMashiach, the Meir of the Torah. Good Shabbat.